So, as I said, I'll be speaking on research publications, avoiding plagiarism and publishing in best journals. So, the purpose of any research and publications, as you all may be aware, is to fill the existing knowledge gap. And obviously, to disseminate research results and whatever knowledge we gain from such research. And the other purpose is also, to get some financial reward or maybe, career advancement. People also enjoy writing good research articles, and of course then we publish in journals. But at the same time there are some challenges, and these challenges include like knowing the research tools, how and which tool to use for different types of research that we do. What are the issues related to the academic ethics when you write, and then selecting the right kind of journal, because journal selection is really challenge these days, especially because of the predatory publishing. So what is predatory publishing? Let me just spend about a couple of minutes on this. So Mr. Jeffrey Beal, who is a library scientist or librarian in the US, he coined this term in the year 2010. And he coined this term to describe those publishers who charge article processing fee, which is popularly known as APF, and provide rapid publishing without a proper peer review process. So there are two things which are important. One is, of course, they charge a fee, because obviously all open access journals, they charge article processing fee, which is not bad. But then, if you exploit this open access publishing models to just earn money and these people do not do any peer review process, and they also promise for rapid publication. And because they promise for rapid publication, we generally, want that we publish in these journals. These are basically low quality journals, okay? And these are also known, the predatory publishing or predatory journals are also known as fake journals. Dubious, fake publishing, deceptive. Deceptive because, they say that, our impact factor is this much, but then actually the impact factor may be lower than what they project on their website. So what is impact factor, since you all are internees and you have just done your postgraduate? So, impact factor is basically arrived from citations one gets. I will also be telling you what citations are. So basically, citations and impact factor is interlinked. A citation, every, article gets some kind of citations. And then, on the basis of these citations, impact factor is calculated. More number of citation results in better impact factor or higher impact factor. This is also known as, scholarly bad faith, dark side of publishing, questionable publishing, low credibility journals, and pseudo journals. Why they are also called pseudo journals? Because sometimes there could be a legitimate journal by a name, and similar name will be put for some other fake journal. Like, for example, say, just assuming that there is a journal called Indian Medical Science Journal, and this is a legitimate journal, and if somebody comes up with another journal by the name Indian Medical Sciences Journal, so he simply, the predatory publisher, they simply put S in sciences and they bring out a new journal. So generally what happens that, the young researchers, they feel probably it is the same journal, and they actually get trapped in publishing in such predatory journals. So basically these are low quality journals. There was one list called, Beal's list, which was actually produced by Mr. Jeffrey Beal. So, but then, after, just I think few years back, that list is not there anymore because of various things. He had to, stop publishing these journals, because some publishers said that probably this list is not authentic, and Mr. Jeffrey Beal has various kinds of other pressure also, and finally, he had to drop this list. Uh, uh, I mean, he stopped publishing it. There is another website called Cable. So if you go to Cable's website, you will get a list of predatory journals and publishers. This is another list, but now this list does not exist anymore, so I'll skip it. Then, there is one website called predatorjournals.com. This also, lists out all the predatory publishers and predatory journals. So it would be good if you can go to this website and see whether a journal where you intend to publish is listed here or not. So accordingly, you can take the decision of publishing. Also, if you feel that there is a journal which you might feel that it is a predatory, it's a low quality journal, you can report to this website, and after necessary checks and balances, they may or may not include that particular title of journal in their list. Also, you may be aware that UGC care list, if you go to the website of UGC care list, there is a complete detail of all the clone journals. So clone journals are basically, you can say the copy of legitimate journals. So, and they have listed out the UGC care website, all the clone journals. Then, when it comes to publishing, obviously everybody wants to publish in, just a second, let me just close it. Yeah. So when it comes to publishing, obviously, everybody wants to publish in high impact factor journals. Then, there are, if it is a management area, then ABDC is another classification of journals that is called Australian Business Deans Council. So they also have a list where you can publish. Cables also have good list of scholarly journals where one can publish. Obviously, Web of Science and Scopus, I'm sure you may be aware. Web of Science is a product of Thomson Reuters, and Scopus is a product of Elsevier. So basically, these two products here, here after various checks, journal titles are included in these Scopus and Web of Science. Scopus is has more number of social sciences journals, whereas Web of Science has sciences journals. So what I'm trying to say is that these two databases, that is Web of Science and Scopus, they are basically databases of citations and abstracts. So if you want to publish in a good journal, possibly you can just refer to these two databases, that is Scopus and Web of Science, and see how many citation one journal's articles are getting, or what is the impact factor of that journal, and accordingly you can decide about publishing in that journal. So these basically, these two databases are aggregators of all the good journals, and they give you the citations and also the impact factor. So citations means, say for example, if I am writing a research paper and I come across a paper which you might have published, and say if I'm working on that in that same area, so there's a possibility that I may take some portion of your research in my paper, and then I acknowledge that I have taken it from your paper, and then I excuse me, and then I have to put this citation. So citation is nothing but basically, you just write the name of the author, last name, most of the time last name of the author, and the year in which that journal, the article was published. So this is called citation or in-text citation. There is another thing which is called a reference. So reference is basically a detailed thing which will have a complete bibliographic description of that particular source which you might have cited. So which will include complete name of the author, year in which the article is published, publisher, name of title of the article, and so on. So these two databases are really helpful for you to not just for writing purpose, but for reading purposes also. Say if you are working in, for example, HRM, and if you search by HRM in these two databases, that is Web of Science and Scopus, you get a long list of articles. So on the basis of number of citation the articles are getting, you may decide to publish. Okay, so generally, the practice is more number of citation. If an article gets, obviously that article is read by more number of people and cited by more number of people. Then there is a lot of other good publishers like Nature, IEEE, Elsevier, Springer, uh, Emerald, etc. So these are also some good publishers where you can publish your articles. Also, if you go to this the UGC care list, you will find the UGC care list group 1 and group 2 lists. So group 1 is basically those journals which qualifies for publishing articles as per the UGC care protocols. And UGC care list group 2 is it basically has Web of Science journals, Scopus journals, MLA, etc. So I mean, these are a few websites which you can always refer to when you publish. Obviously, apart from this thing, you can always consult your supervisor or teachers and know which are good journals. If the good people are publishing in those journals, obviously you can take a call in publishing those journals or not. So, there was an article published in Current Science of December 2016, where, articles starting from September 2015 and February 2016 were evaluated. So this research concluded that 51% of the people who work in private and government colleges were actually publishing in predatory journals, or you can say low quality journals. Followed by private universities and institutions, then state universities, national institutions, etc. And another revelation of this particular research was that the publication pressure among researchers and lack of monitoring the research being conducted were found to be the major factors which actually contribute to publishing in poor quality journals. And these poor quality journals are in open access format, or I mean open access is even open access journals can be accessed by anyone. You can publish in open access journal by paying a fee, but it does not mean that all open access journals are predatory or low quality journals. There are some excellent journals where you will find in open access model. So I suggest that maybe this is one good document from Committee on Publishing Ethics. You can read this to know more about predatory publishing. And why research is important for academic institutions. Of course, you all know it is extension of teaching. It improves your teaching skill. There's a visibility and recognition of academic institution. It also leads to promotion, and the one very important the reason why we should publish in good journals is because of the fact that all the ranking agencies, whether these are national rankings agencies or international rankings, there the weightage is quite high when it comes to research and publications. So these agencies not only see in how many journals one institution faculty members have published, but it also takes into account where you have published. Okay, so but unfortunately, if you see the international ranking, our ranking is not good. The recently this Times Higher Education ranking of 2022 also, I think, has been already been published. But again, out of this 12, actually the total number of participants in this particular ranking were about 1200. And out of these 1200 institutions, we started ranking after 600 in our universities like JNU, Jamia, University of Delhi, BHU. But if you see a neighboring country like China, their public universities are doing quite well, and they fare quite well when it comes to international ranking. So, there is a survey done by Elsevier, which is, of course, a publisher, a prominent publisher, you may be aware. So that survey suggested that every year 1.2 million researchers begin their career in this career. And out of this, 1.2 million, only 35% of the researchers stay for more than 5 years. And out of this 35%, only half of them are actually able to complete their career in research. So this is really sad that, only about 16 or 17% of researchers are able to complete their career in research out of this 1.2 million, which I just showed you. So there is a small, about 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes video, which I would like to show you, which actually tells you about, the various aspects of research and why, what are the important things one should learn when it comes to doing research. So let me just play this video. So hope you like this video, and the messages that we get from this video is that obviously collaboration is very important. We should write in collaboration. Funding is of course going down, and it is very important for every researcher to know the existing research tools that we have, not just in locating the right information, but also when it comes to writing. So I thought, maybe, to begin with, I should show this video to you to set the ball rolling. So, as you know, I have to speak on plagiarism or academic dishonesty. So let me begin with, what is the definition of academic dishonesty. This is an article which I could read, which suggested that academic integrity exists when students and faculty seek knowledge honestly, fairly, with mutual respect and trust, and accept responsibility for their actions and the consequences of those actions. So it is not just that we uh, take the responsibility of what we publish, but we also are responsible for the consequences which may occur from our academic publishing. It also says here, this particular article, that academic misconduct or dishonesty occurs when there is a violation of the academic integrity policy. So, what is academic integrity policy? Every university or academic institution has some kind of policy in place which tells its faculty and researchers that, this is the policy we have to follow. Now we have organized it more, and now UGC has a policy that is called 2018 regulation for anti-plagiarism. So that is the policy in place. So in case, there is anything, any violation of such policy, obviously there is a problem. It also says, that particular article, that there can be no trust or reliance on effectiveness, accuracy, or value of a university's teaching, learning, research, or public service activities when, the academic integrity is compromised. So let me also now tell you, there are three important things when it comes to plagiarism or research misconduct. So one is, of course, fabrication, the other is falsification, and the third is plagiarism. So what is fabrication? It means making up of data. We don't have any data for a research, but we somehow cook up that data and record it and report it. That is called fabrication. Now, when it comes to falsification, it means, we manipulate the data to suit our research. So that is also a serious research misconduct. And the third is plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? It is basically the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. So for example, if I'm writing something and I steal or I borrow something from your research, and if I don't acknowledge that I've taken it from your research, then it is plagiarism. And plagiarism is the most common forms of academic misconduct. So academic misconduct also occur in cases of authorship, simultaneous submission, non-disclosure of conflict of interest. And this possibly I will try to explain all those things. So, when we start writing any research article, etc., then it is a good practice that we decide about the sequence of the authorship in the very beginning, so that there is no problem in the future. For example, if I am writing something with you, and if your contribution was more to that particular article, and if I send it for publication with my name as the first author, then obviously that is a serious research misconduct. Ghost authors are basically those authors who do not figure in the list of authors. Okay, so basically, they are professional people who take money and they write for us. So, which is, as I said, obviously, this is a research misconduct. So, guest authors are those authors where, if say if I, if I ask my teacher to be one of the co-authors of my article, just because including his name will improve the chances of my, acceptance of my publication. So that is guest authorship. Gift authors are, when I unnecessarily include someone just, to either oblige that person, or just to make sure that, that person also gets some credit for my research. So these, whether it is guest authorship or host authorship, or it is gift authorship, all are research misconduct. So what is simultaneous submission? Simultaneous submission is when I write an article and I send it to more than one publisher, because I may feel that in case one publisher does not publish my article, or if he rejects my article, then the other will publish. So I think this is a wrong practice, because it may lead to retraction of your article in case there is duplication publications. So what I suggest, that maybe when you send your article for publication, send it to only one publisher, and make sure what people generally do, they start writing articles without identifying the journal in which they want to publish. So my suggestion to you, all of you, is that you should first identify the journal in which you want to publish. The reason is that if I know that I will be publishing or sending my article for publication in that journal, then I know what are the practices that journal follows. I know the audience of that journal. I know what are the editorial policy of that journal. I know what is the length of the article they generally accept. I also know that what is the acceptance rate of such journal. So it will be a good practice to first identify the journal, and then start writing for that particular journal. So there are various writings styles also. So if I know that I will be publishing in that particular journal, then I know the style also, and accordingly I will follow that style in my work. So in case I have written an article in English language 2 years back, and if I want to publish that article in Urdu language, then it's a good academic practice, which is required also, that I inform the publisher that I had already published this article in some other language 2 years back, and this is the translated form of that article. So I think these are also few things which you should keep in mind when you uh, write or send your article for publication. So falsification, I have already told you what falsification is. People manipulate images also. Sometimes wrong images are used, sometimes unknowingly, most of the time. So what you can do as a researcher, that you can go to Google Images, uh, export that image or upload that image in Google Image, and see what are the other related images, and it will also tell you about that particular image which you may upload in Google Images. So fabrication, I have already told you, it is making up of data. Or so the best practice would be that when I do my research, so I must keep my research data safe somewhere for a reasonable time, maybe for 5 years or so. It should not happen that I am writing an article today, and if somebody asks for data to support my article, after 1 year I don't have that data. It should not happen. So at least I suggest that at least for 5 years you should keep your data safe. Also, let me also tell you what is salami slicing. So salami slicing is basically when I unnecessarily want to create two papers out of one meaningful paper. So that is also not right. There is when it comes to research misconduct, there's conflict of interest. So it is always it's always a good practice to inform the editor about any kind of conflict of interest if I have with the journal or article, etc. So now we will discuss plagiarism, and as I said, plagiarism is the most common form of research misconduct. So that is the reason why we will spend some more time on this particular aspect. So Merriam-Webster's dictionary says that the act of using another person's words or ideas without giving credit to that person is plagiarism. To steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, use another's production without crediting the source, is plagiarism. So it goes on to say that plagiarism is like committing literary theft. So you can imagine the kind of seriousness of research misconduct when it comes to plagiarism. It is equated with literary theft. So plagiarism is basically cheating at academic dishonesty. And I just said that plagiarism is the most common forms of academic misconduct. The reason why I said was because of the fact that Elsevier, when they uh, did a survey of articles that were submitted to them, Then they found that the research misconduct related to authorship was 11%, conflict of interest was 9%, duplication in submission was 22%, but when it came to plagiarism, it was 46%, and that is the reason why I said that this is the most common forms of academic misconduct. So basically, plagiarism is an act of fraud. It involves both stealing someone else's work and lying about it afterwards. Even words and thoughts can be plagiarized. You must have heard that in when Joe Biden was contesting the presidential election, he was accused of having plagiarized one of the speeches. So I'm not saying that he actually plagiarized, but he was accused of having plagiarized his speech. So let me tell you more about plagiarism. So plagiarism takes different forms, from literal copying to paraphrasing someone else's work. Now, what is literal copying? Literal copying is when I simply copy paste something as it is in my of someone else's work in my work, and I don't give the citation, or I don't acknowledge the source. Also, there could be another forms of plagiarism, that is paraphrasing. So if instead of just putting it as it is, I paraphrase in my own words, and then I do not give a citation, that is also plagiarism. And the sad part is that plagiarism can happen even accidentally. Why I say this? Because of the fact that sometimes you may not realize that you have not given the citation and reference. Sometimes you forget to give citation. Sometimes you at the back of your mind, there is something from your childhood that this thing happens like this. And then if you don't do proper literature survey, and you mention that in your academic work, that may also lead to plagiarism by accident. So whether it is by accident or intentional, uh, the punishment for plagiarism will be the same, because the ignorance of law cannot be an excuse. Things like computer programs, statistics, music, etc., can also be plagiarized. So whether you are taking the text as it is from some other work, or you are paraphrasing, please do not forget to mention the source. And some of the examples of plagiarism are showing someone else's work as your own. Next is copying words or ideas from someone else's work without giving credit, giving incorrect information about the source. So this is also plagiarism. Buying, stealing, or borrowing assignments, experiments, results, etc., using ideas of someone else's work without crediting the originator, reusing an existing published paper in a different journal, including translated articles, copying, reproducing in part or whole one's own published work without giving proper reference to that work. So what does it mean? It means that in case I had published an article 2 years back, and now I am publishing some other article, and I'm taking something from my previous article, then I must mention, or I must cite the source even of my own paper. Then using or copying so many words or ideas from another source that it makes up the majority of your research work. So whether you give credit or not, that will be plagiarism. So I think these were some of the examples, and one of the important thing here, in my opinion, is paraphrasing. So paraphrasing existing texts of others and presenting it as yours is, of course, plagiarism. So what I was saying is that paraphrasing is the most important part when we do academic writing. When you paraphrase, make sure that you read the original idea carefully. It should not happen when you paraphrase, then it changes complete meaning of the original text or original idea. So here, there are three important things when you paraphrase. So paraphrasing is not acceptable in the following cases. Say, for example, if you put the something as it is, that is called literal copying, without giving double quotes, then it is not acceptable. You should not emulate sentence structure even when using different words. You should also not emulate paragraph organization. So what you should do is, when you paraphrase, is that you read the original paragraph carefully. Keep the original aside and try to rewrite from your memory. If you feel that you need to rearrange, and most of the cases in paraphrasing, you will have to rearrange the ideas in different order. So for example, the thing which has been discussed at the end, you may put it in the beginning of your work. You also can use thesaurus, or you can use online thesaurus. So wherever necessary, use synonyms. Also, after doing this, you can compare the original paragraph or original text or ideas and what you have done. So if you see that still it has some problem, then you can accordingly make adjustments. There could be some line or a couple of lines which obviously you will not be able to paraphrase. So in such cases, there is no problem even if you put those things in double quotes. And of course, you have to cite the source. Now, this is just one example, on your screen, which I thought may help you in understanding paraphrasing. Because if you do proper paraphrasing, it will avoid plagiarism. So this, I during COVID, I read this particular thing somewhere, and this was the original text, which says Indians have expressed shock and anger after a junior health minister told Parliament that no COVID deaths had been reported due to oxygen shortages. Hospitals across the country ran out of oxygen in April and May during a deadly second wave. There were daily reports of people dying from lack of oxygen, but the government said on Tuesday that no deaths due to lack of oxygen has been specifically reported by states. India has reported more than 418,000 COVID deaths so far, and more than half of these happened after 16 April when COVID cases began to climb sharply. So this was the original text, okay? So I will just tell you how I tried to paraphrase it. I wrote this first. That is, in the second half of April 2021, India saw a steep rise in COVID-related cases. And this thing was given here at the end, okay? That after 16 April. So instead of after 16 April, I wrote in the second half of April 2021. And, instead of saying climb sharply, I wrote India saw a steep rise in COVID-related cases. Also, then here, it was somewhere it was written more than half. So instead of that, I have written here more than 50% of the deaths were reported post April 16, 2021. And then, this thing that is, it is a common knowledge that during the second wave of COVID-19 in the months of April, May 21, hospitals did not have oxygen stock of, did not have required stock of medical oxygen. So this was written here in the beginning, so which I wrote here at the end. So this is how, you can paraphrase. Just a second, just let me. So this may not, excuse me, just a second, please. Just a second. Yeah, so, you can go to this website, Biology at Davidson, and, you can simply see the paraphrasing, how paraphrasing can be done. Obviously, you can't read all those things. There is another article which you will find on the internet also. Here, you can also see how to paraphrase properly. So most cases of plagiarism can be avoided by citing of source. So that is very, very important. And you not only should cite the source, but you should cite relevant source. It should not happen that, the sources which you are citing are not relevant to your research. You should give complete information about that source, because giving half information will not serve the purpose. The purpose of giving citation and reference is that in case I come across your article, and if I want to see the sources which you have read, which you have referred in your article, I should be able to do it by just getting information from your research paper. Hence, it is very, very important that you cite as you write. It should not happen that you first complete your writing and then start citing. You should cite as you write. Just this is the principle of avoiding plagiarism. So let me also now tell you briefly what citations are. So citations are in-text, or in-text citation is one when one paper refers to another paper. You must have seen in different articles that author's last name and year within brackets is written in text. So that is citation. And when complete detail of that paper is given at the end of that article, that is called reference. So there is another thing called bibliography, which is list of books or other reading material. But the basic difference between references and bibliographies is that under references, only those articles or documents will appear which you have cited in your research paper. Whereas in bibliography, everything will appear which you might have consulted during your research writing, not necessarily referred these documents. So I think this is the definition of citation and reference. Despite the fact that it is quite easy thing to give citation, references, etc. The available studies suggest that a disproportionate number of errors occur in the reference section, even in some of the most prestigious biomedical journals. Sometimes, when we take things from internet, and when we take something from internet, we must mention the date on which that particular thing was retrieved. There's a possibility that today you have used that website, but after 2 years that URL or website may not be there. And hence, it is important that we mention the date. What are various problems, when in citations and references? Let me just briefly tell you what are the issues and how you should give citations and references. So, when I review some papers, I find that the number of citations and the corresponding references do not match with each other. There are sometimes a lot of spelling mistakes, and these things occur because we give citation and references manually, which we should avoid. Also, you should try to cite from the original source, or you can say the primary source, not from the secondary source. But there could be a situation where primary document is not available to you, and you will have to cite from the secondary source. Now, for example, if I want to cite the wholesale price index or inflation data, so how will I do that? One is that I simply go to Google, and whatever documents I get, I simply use it. The other is I go to the Ministry of Statistics, and there is a department called Central Statistical Organization. I can go under that department and get that information about inflation and wholesale price index or index to industry progression, etc. So instead of taking such thing from this, I would take it from the primary source. Similarly, if I want to know how much wheat was export, what was the value, etc., to US and other countries, then where I will go? I should go to the primary source, that is the Directorate of Foreign Trade Statistics in India. So to the extent possible, you should cite from the original source and cite only what you consulted. For example, you are consulting a conference proceeding article, and you are citing the journal article. I think that should be avoided. Now, the academic ethics also demands that when we cite from a secondary source, we should try to give credit to the primary or the originator. Now, for example, say for example, I had written a document, I had written an article in 2010 on this theory of relativity by Einstein. So if you want to write on this particular thing and you do not have access to the primary document of Einstein, then you can cite from my work as like this, according to Einstein 1930, as cited in Parvez 2020, theory of relativity in physics, etc. So whatever you want to give, you can then mention here. And this is the APA style, that is American Psychological Association style. So whether these sources go against your hypothesis or they go in favor, everything you have to cite. Selective citation of literature is always bad. You should never cite from one single journal or a set of couple of journals. Because if you do that, there's a possibility that there will be a misrepresentation of impact factor or CITE score of those journals. Also, unnecessary citation of authors' previous work should be avoided. It should not happen just to increase your H index. You start citing from your work. Also, you should avoid citing from abstract. Try to cite from the original article. Also, when you cite, make sure those articles are not retracted. So, what is retraction? I will tell you after a couple of slides. So, citation, there are various styles of citations. American Psychological Association, Oxford referencing, then Chicago, then Harvard. So there are so many styles, and every style wants that you should cite in a different manner. So, for example, if I want to cite from a book, and this, for example, if I've taken from that book that libraries are lifeline of any academic institution. So this is basically the citation, okay, and this is the complete reference of this particular citation. Which has the title of the book, publisher, etc. So for book chapter, citation will be different. For journal article, it will be different. Newspaper article, citation and referencing will be different. So now the problem is, because there are so many citation and referencing styles, and in each style, there are different ways of rendering different types of documents. So how do I remember it? I cannot really do that. I cannot memorize these styles. So one should use technology. And for example, now what technology should be used? Can I take 10 more minutes?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, you can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, I had thought actually I'll be able to finish, but unfortunately I'm not able to finish on time. So, there are some core areas, in my opinion, that core areas are abstract, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, conclusions, recommendation. For any research, these are the core areas. But in my opinion, I have just listed out some of the non-core areas, which are like, for example, table of content. You can always generate automated table of content. Your pagination in a track change mode. What is track change mode? I'm sure you may be aware. If not, you can ask me how to give footnote and endnote. I mean, do you need really, when you write in MS Office Word? So generally, I have seen people, they write manually. When I say manually, I mean, if they give footnote, they put one and then they make it superscript. So I think that is not the right way. Similarly, in every thesis, we in the beginning we mention complete list of figures and tables. So if we use proper method of giving figures and tables in MS Office, then with just by one click of the one of the buttons in the MS Office Word, complete list will appear, and I don't really need to bother giving each figure and table detail in the beginning. Also, references. So this is important, references and bibliography. In fact, everything is important, but since I'm talking on plagiarism, then references is very, very important. So I suggest that you should always use some kind of reference organizer, like for example, Mendeley. If you use Mendeley, then what will happen that you will able to organize your documents quite well. If time permits, I'll take 2-3 minutes to show you, or let me just try to show you now itself. This I'm telling you in the context of avoiding plagiarism, because the topic is also avoiding plagiarism. So let me just okay. So say for example, just a second. Okay, I'll take this particular thing. For example, this is my article and I want to give citation here. Okay, some here at the here. So for example, so I'll take my cursor there and then let's bring it down. I'll go to references. Okay, I'll click on the references. So if I click on references, under, there in MS Office Word, there's a button called Insert Citation. So here, it gives me type of sources. So I can choose any of the sources. Say, for example, if I'm citing from a journal, so I'll select journal. And then here, say, if the author is Akhtar Parvez, and the title of this article is, say, librarianship in India, and the journal name is Library Herald. It was published, say, in 2019, and it is on page number 8 to say 16. So this is how I give citation here, and what you see here, this citation has appeared. But this citation is, the style here is IEEE. So there is a button for changing the style also. So if I change this style to APA, then the citation has come. Similarly, I can go down, and I mean, obviously I can put more citations here like this, and when I go down, at the end, I can just go to bibliography, and this I can give. So what you see here is that the complete reference has come automatically, because of the fact that I had filled this data in that sheet which had popped up in MS Office Word. So this is one simple way of giving citation and reference. But the other good way is that one should always use Mendeley. And I suggest that since I cannot really give a complete demo of Mendeley, it requires another 30-40 minutes. So my suggestion to all the students would be to, in all the interns rather, to go to my YouTube channel, and I have prepared a video for how to install Mendeley, how to work in Mendeley. So you can just go there and see. So let me just I'll take another 5. Yeah, this is my YouTube page. So you can just take this. You can see this video. So plagiarism is a problem that comes from a lack of creativity, as someone has rightly said. So there are a lot of consequences. If you do not give citation properly, there are a lot of consequences. You can be punished for that. You may be aware that one minister in Germany, he had to resign, and he had to also forego his PhD degree. So there are a lot of other things also which we had seen, that people who are accused of having plagiarized, and what we witnessed during COVID, that the cases of plagiarism, the percentage actually increased. And just a second. So there was this. This is a very important case. I thought I'll just discuss it. There was a very famous professor, Professor Stephen, who was working in a university, and what he used to do is, he had a lot of data. So he used to give that data to his students to do research, and put his name also, because he had the data. So there was an inquiry done, and it was found that during 2004 to 2010, he had published actually 30 research papers, and all were peer reviewed papers. So all were actually there was a falsification and fabrication. So finally what happened, that teacher was terminated, and the committee which was investigating it recommended that every PhD scholars should have 2 supervisors. Dissertation committees must ascertain that the students collected the data himself or herself. Data need to remain accessible for 5 years, and manuscripts need to indicate where the data reside and how they can be accessed. So there were a lot of other, for example, in Springer is a publisher. They had to retract one article after 14 years of its publication. So all institutions, what we saw in the recent past, were accused of having plagiarized. I mean, when I say institutions, I mean faculty members or staff of such institution. So retraction, I was telling you, So retraction is basically done when there is questionable publishing. So when there is questionable publishing, papers are retracted. And paper retraction means removal of published article, either from print version of the journal or online journal. So a paper is retracted because of the validity of the paper is under question. Okay, and papers are retracted either by authors, institutions, editors. Now this is a website called Retraction Watch. Let me just go there. So under retraction watch database, if you want to know, if how many papers or which papers got retracted in India, so that also you can find out from here. Yeah, you go to India and here you select the subject. So for example, you select economics or accounting, and then you will know how many papers. Say I select economics and I say search. I can also give date here. Say for example, if I want last 2-3 years, I can do that. So these are the list of papers which got retracted, and here the reasons of retractions are also given. Like here, fake peer review, investigation by journal publisher, rogue editor. So here also similar things. So this is a good database of finding out which papers got retracted. So as someone rightly said, that the reputation of 1,000 years may be determined by the conduct of 1 hour. So you must read this particular regulation of the UGC, which is applicable to all faculty and staff and of course research scholars. So I will not really go into the detail of this UGC regulation because it has lots of things to say. But then one very important thing which I want to tell you is that under this UGC regulation, it says the plagiarism similarity should not be there in abstract, summary, etc. However, it shall exclude common knowledge or coincidental terms up to 14 consecutive words. So it also says, these are the exclusions. So what are the exclusions? All quoted works, references, bibliographic, generic terms, laws, standard symbols, common knowledge, etc. So what is common knowledge, which is known to most of the people? So these things are similarity exclusions in the UGC regulation. So my suggestion to all of you would be to please read this UGC regulation to get further clarity on this aspect. So if you want, you can write back to me also if you have, or you can call me up to discuss this. So let me tell you, all similarities are not plagiarism. Okay, so that you should keep in mind. For example, this is a report which I generated in one of the similarity checking software, that is Turnitin. So here it says this article had 34.7% of similarity. And it also here gives the website address from where data has been copied. So in the next slide, what I have done, I have just enlarged this particular page for you. So here different numbers are given, and here it is given categories of information, organizations. Then you have institutes of management. So basically, these are exclusions because UGC regulation says that generic terms, etc., are all excluded. So this is not plagiarism, but this is exclusion. As I said, there is punishment, and I would never want that any of our, even here in my university, research scholars get punished for this. So there are categories, like for example, if there is similarity up to 10%, there's no problem. But if there is similarity between 10 to 40% or above, there is some kind of punishment prescribed in the UGC regulation. For faculty also, there is some research misconduct or research or academic conduct norms which the faculty or staff has to follow. And if a faculty or a faculty or staff is found to be plagiarizing repeatedly, then he or she may be terminated also. So I think I stop here, and these are some important documents which you can see. This one, okay, then while if you go on the website and if you write academic ethics, etc., this you must read this particular document of Taylor and Francis, how to write your paper, everything you need to know to prepare and write an effective research paper. So with this, if you know all these things, you will obviously relax. So there is an article which you can also consider reading, which says that 90% of papers that have been published in academic journals are never cited. As many as 50% of papers are never read by anyone other than their authors, referees, and journal editors. So what is the point of writing, if nobody's reading that? So in technology, we have to become a little smart. We have to follow. We must learn how to locate right kind of information, how to write properly, what are different writing tools, etc. So thank you very much. I hope this session was of some use to you. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.